Welcome to Win Games, Strategies for Success. Today we're going to show you how to win Railroad Inc. Now the obvious challenge in a game like this, and I'm assuming that you know the rules and just want to know a good strategy, is that we have to deal with a lot of variability in the dice. We don't know what we're going to get rolled. But it turns out we can overcome that with a little bit of probability and a little bit of strategy. Let's take a look. A couple things you need to know. If we're looking at ways to score points, it's either by connecting exits, by making a long rail and road connections, or by having tiles in the center, filling the tiles in the center square here. And it turns out that's exactly the order in which you should prioritize them. The most points available are for connecting exits. Then you have a very high ceiling on your longest road and rail. And the squares in the middle are a nice way to offset some of your dead ends you might get, but they're not our primary objective. Second thing we want to know is how many points are we shooting for. This is also tricky because if you got to set the dice to exactly what sides you wanted, it's possible to actually score 80 points over the course of game. That will be left as an exercise to the watcher. Post your picks below. But what we want to do is maximize the rolls that we've been given. And depending on what those rolls are, that could be 55 points, it could be 65 points. But it's typically somewhere in that range, and it correlates highly with the number of T-junction railways and T-junction highways we receive. So if there are a lot of these, we're going to be closer to that 65 end. If we don't get much of those, we still hope to get around 55 points. A good strategy to test whether you did well or not, you number each of your placements in the roll and ride version of this, which means you can go back and play the exact same game again. Just give yourself those same rolls and see if a different strategy would have gotten you more points. Our goal was to build a strategy so that even on those replays, your first play on the strategy gives you very close to the optimal number of points. Now I'll throw in a disclaimer. Somebody else might play a strategy attempting to connect all 12 of the exits and get an insanely long route. And 1 out of 10 times, they might get a perfect final row and win it. But those dice are not going to favor that kind of a strategy. When we say best strategy, we mean the one that is going to win most often. So what is it that we're trying to achieve? What do we need to have in our head when we sit down to the first roll and start the game? How does this strategy work? Well, the first thing we have in our heads is that the opening roll is going to determine whether roads or rails are going to be our primary route. And a roll like this would heavily favor roads as our primary route. And once I know what my primary route is, I'm going to build a certain structure, and we'll talk about that structure in a minute, in an attempt to connect 10 of these exits. If it's roads, we'll start with this one and connect all 10, moving around, leaving 2 as options. If we have a lot of those T-junctions, then we will maybe try to pick up that 11th one. But our original mindset is I need to get 10 of these all connected. That's a reasonable objective given the number of dice rolls that we get over the course of the game. The second thing we want to remember is that these special routes are most helpful if we save them to the end. So if we can save our special route plays, those last 3, for rounds 5, 6, and 7, that'll put us in the best spot to win. If we have to pull one out early to get ourselves out of a jam, we will, but it's not optimal. And over the course of those last 3 rolls, we should then have 15 tiles, we'll say, that we can place on this board. And we want the network we're attempting to build only to require 12 of them when we have 15 left, or 7 of them when we have 10 left. We want to keep a 3-space margin to completion over those last 3 rolls, and that'll give us a good shot at building it. At building what? Let's take a look. Here's what the superstructure looks like. And the superstructure is determined by which T-junction comes up in your opening roll. If you get a T-junction on roads, we're going to build this with roads. If this T-junction had been rails, we would have gone down here and done the same thing with rails, flipping it. And there's a reason that we use this. After your first roll, you have 18 more rolls of the non-station die. And over the course of those 18 rolls, the number of T-junctions is very likely to accommodate this type of a strategy. We have one already. It's a very good chance that we'll get 2 more, and quite probably a third. If we get a fourth, we would come here off of maybe an overpass to loop this whole thing around to the middle. This superstructure also uses a number of corners, a number of straights, and it uses all 3 of the station die faces. So this superstructure is going to take care of a lot of the rolls we get within roads, which is going to be our primary route. Now for our secondary route, which in this case would be rails, we're going to start here and then work our way, making something similar to this if favorable. If not favorable, we're just trying to get all of these pieces drawn into this side of the central square. And if we can do that, then some of these special routes should help us connect all exits together. How about the ordering? Priority for your junctions, this would be your first placement. This is the second placement. And the third will be here or here. We place it here if it's in the first 2 rounds, here if it's any time after that. Priority for corners, this would be your first, then this. And the priority for your roads, this is our first play, our second play, and then this will be our last. And the reason we structure things like this is we want to keep options open. If you get an overpass late in the game, that's a great spot to put it if you can't use it elsewhere because it only gives you 1 dead end. Similar logic will follow as we're building our secondary route. We want to place things so that whatever comes up, we have a place to put it. So our first play on our secondary route would likely be right here. That gives us a good out for a straight station or a corner station to include this exit that we're trying to pick up. Second overpass would come here. And that gives us a chance to build a structure similar to this one that'll let us get a fairly long rail. We're likely going to need one of these special route tiles to connect our rails with our roads. If we had a corner on our secondary route, we'd place it here if we had our overpass in play already. If not, we would place it here, committing ourselves to a straight station. Let's take a look at what this strategy would look like in action, and we'll show you that decision making in real time. In this case, I have a junction for both my primary and my secondary route. So I have to decide which it will be, and I do that based on the other rolls. So since I have more roads, I'm going to let this be my primary route with my highways, or roads as I call them. And we're going to place our corner there. My secondary route goes here. And for your station dice, you use your stations on your primary route first, secondary route second here. Now that I've placed a straight station, if I were to get a corner rail, I'd put it here because I need an opening, a way to use a straight station. We want to keep that in mind. Notice what this does. If I get a corner rail, a straight station, a straight road, a corner station, a straight road, an overpass, a corner road, I have a place to put all of these different options. Okay, round 2. And remember, my number 2 play for my primary goes here. My number 2 play for my corner goes here. I'm just building that superstructure. I'm going to use my corner station here, and just as we said earlier, that corner road is going to go here. Roll number 3. That's my opening play for a junction, overpass. Got both of these, which is nice. I don't have to decide which I'm going to use. And now things get a little tricky over here, but recall we said this is where we'd like to put that corner if we have to. We're hopefully going to be able to use that overpass junction here to bring all of this together. Sorry, I call stations junctions. Roll number 4. Drop this guy in here. And we're going to curve this towards that space the same way we curved this one in. We've now committed to at least 2 special stations in that corner, but that's okay. We've made it through the first 4 and haven't had to use any yet. So as we go to 5, this is the point where we're going to now count. I have 15 plays left. What do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's awesome. Only 8 left. I'm going to think maybe about opening up and going for this one or wandering around in the middle to pick up some extra points. Now things get a little tricky. A couple of these are obvious. Coming in straight here, picking that up there. But these corners don't have a lot of options. And what we're actually going to do is think about, where do I put my special station first in a way that will let me play off of those. Now the obvious location would be this one right here, because we have 4 things coming out of that. But I can't play the corners off of that because they would play into areas where I need a straight. So we're actually going to use our special station here, because that's going to give us a chance to get into the middle. Let's think about which one we want to use. Coming off this end, we need a road. Here we need a rail. Here we need whatever I'm going to the center with. And then over here, we'd probably like to have a road as well. Now this play down here may seem like an odd one, but you'll notice I don't have any good place to put a corner junction. If I corner junction here, a straight rail becomes useful, and I also don't have anywhere to play a straight rail. So when something doesn't work well with your strategy, put it somewhere that opens up more options down the road. Let's see what we get. And just as we anticipated, we get something we can't use on a corner, so that could potentially pick us up 4 more points in the long run. This we're going to play here. Here we're obviously looking at this one. And the time has now come to fill this in. We're in round 6. We only have 1 more shot at this. So we're going to play this here. And I would normally play it the other direction, give myself an option to keep going, but this late in the game we don't need it. We can now place one of our super junctions in here, and the obvious super junction would be the 3 roads and a rail, but we've already used that. So we're going to play our corner, and that'll now allow us to use a straight junction to finish our route, or if we don't get a straight junction, we'll drop our other super station in there. Round 7. So straight here, we didn't get the straight through, so we'll have to do that with our super bit here. And then for our last few steps, we're just going to wander around in the middle, picking up points, making our longest road longer, and also getting points for playing in the center. Okay, let's take a look at how it scores. First, we need to confirm that we did indeed connect all 10 of our exits, and we did. That'll get us the 36 points plus the 4 for our extra network at the bottom. Count up our longest road, 15, and our longest rail, which gets us to 9. And then the center 4 offset the 4 dead ends for a total score of 64 points. So notice how building that superstructure gave us a great shot at a long road. We solved all of our problems in here using our special tiles towards the end, but we made sure the spaces we were keeping open were roads and rails, not all one kind, so that whatever that last roll is, we had a chance to do it well. Now let's take a look at what happens when the rolls aren't so favorable with the T-junctions. Let's suppose our opening roll had no T-junctions. So if this had been our opening roll, we then have to stall. We also have to make our superstructure smaller. So we drop off. If we had been roads, it would be this corner one here. We'd start here from roads. In this case, it's rails. So I'm going to drop off this one, and I'm going to start my structure here. I'm still going to wander around this corner under the overpass. Same strategy and the same level of priority. Oop, that should be a straight road. And I'm still going to use my secondary over here, but now I'd like to pick this one up as well with my 10. Still no T's, So we're going to have to be a little bit creative, play around with the tiles and find things that will give you the most options. The straight rail's obvious, and we're going to use the overpass in the corner because we've already drawn that corner out, and to use the overpass in the middle would no longer be helpful. Place the corners a couple different places until you find something that fits. Of course, when in doubt, keep everything close together so that the next roll can bail you out. Here again, building priority for that superstructure. Over here, I don't have a lot of options. I do need to pick this one up because I can only leave 2 blanks in between the 10 that I'm trying to pick up. And I'm going to play in a way that, stop and consider, I have a place for a corner rail, I have a place for a corner road, I have a place for a straight rail and a straight road if I need to bring those off the side. There's always place for the T-junctions. Finally, things open up for us. This would seem like a good play right here, but only because we can get out with it. We need that route to keep continuing so that it connects. Now, if I get a corner rail, I can use it here because on turn 5 I'll have a super junction to bring that back together, or a special route tile. I have a place for a corner road here. I have a place for a straight road if I want to keep coming this direction, and if I get an overpass, I can even play it here. Let's take a look at what we get in round number 5. Now, doing a space count before we go to roll number 6, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces left to finish the route that we're attempting to create, and we have 10 tiles left to do it. 9 after we place the first of our special tiles. So let's see which one of those would be the best to use right now. And if you're deciding which tile would be the best, you want to look at which would give you the most opportunities. Or conversely, what are you going to have to fill? So this, for example, requires a T-rail junction, but I need another one there. The odds of getting 2 are less, so I might want to use this in a way that allows me to fill one of those holes. And I think at this point, this would be the higher priority. Since I don't care what that third side is, I'll use the 4-way. The only disadvantage is I might need another out for a rail, so I think I might actually replace that on second thought, so that if I do get too many rails, I can place the 4-way here and come out as necessary. Let's see what round 6 holds for us. We got this piece, that's handy. We also got this piece, exactly what we were hoping for. And now we want to think about longest road. I really like this to connect through. I'd get a lot of points for that. So when I go to do something here, it needs to be something that's going to keep those hopes alive. And I think the best shot at that would be this. Now, I'm with you that it would be a lot better, potentially, to be able to get more points by running the road off this side, but I also want to make sure that all of this stuff gets connected. So the event that something goes wrong, I want to have as many options as possible in that late round to come in and connect this, maybe with a corner junction, pick up this rail if I can't get it another way. Well, let's try this. If I get a straight rail, I'm going to use it right there. But if I get a straight road, I don't have a good spot for it. This gives me something for a straight road and a chance to pick up an extra 4 points. Let's see if it happens. Round 7. Now, once you get to round 7, there's no longer any strategy in optimizing. You just put those 4 tiles wherever the highest score would result. But of course, it's good to remember that completing networks are 4 points apiece, while a dead end is only -1. So we're going to favor the networks. Also think about the longest road. Getting those 2 roads connected and those 2 rails connected was pretty critical in this case. And we did indeed get all 10 of our exits connected, so 36 points on the network. And we got quite a long road, 13 points there. And our rail came through even further at 15. with enough points in the middle to almost offset the -6 on dead ends, for a grand total of 63 points. So notice how we were able to, even in a situation where our opening roll didn't include a T-junction, modify this strategy but keep the same basic structure and come up with a very high score in a situation that, on the early running, threw us a lot of straights and corners that didn't appear like they were going to be very usable. And that's how you win Railroad Inc.